Hi, I'm Kevin Elizabeth, a wedding photographer based in San Diego. Today I'm going to be dishing on why your vendors might be ignoring you, why they might not be ignoring you, and all things ghosting. I want to start off by telling you guys that, of course, some of you know I got married earlier this year. So I have been on both sides of this issue of having your emails ignored. I have brides ghost me all the time. So many of them ghost me. And that is so frustrating to have to take the time to do that. I file their inquiry in a system. I make sure to follow up after a couple days. And if they had just told me off the bat that they weren't in budget or they found somebody else within the span of 24 hours that I emailed them, that would be so nice to know. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I really don't care. I would just rather know so I can close out their file, not waste any more of my time, and then not be sending them any more emails that they clearly don't want to receive. So thank you to those of you brides who have inquired with me and then gotten back to me really quickly saying, I'm so sorry, you're out of budget. Do you have any other recommendations? I love you and I very much appreciate you. Even though you're not booking me, I love that you respected me enough to respond back to me, and then I could help you out with referrals. Now, I've also been on the other side when I was a bride of a couple, not very many, but a couple of vendors I reached out to ignoring my emails. Some got back to me like after 3 weeks and I was like, hey girl, it's way too late. I've already booked somebody else. And then a couple of them absolutely never responded. And I'm like, why? Like, this is money on the table. But then I have to wonder, well, maybe they didn't get my email, maybe it went to spam, maybe something happened, or I don't know, maybe they didn't like something about my email or my venue, or they don't like me and they know who I am. Who knows? But I'm going to be talking to you guys all about the different scenarios of vendors not responding back to your emails. Some of them might be 100% innocent and others might not be so innocent. Now, when I am explaining the reasons why they might be ignoring you today, I am in no way saying that they are justified by not responding back to you. What I'm simply doing is offering you some possibilities in case you're one of those people who's like, I just want to know why they're not responding to me. Then these might at least give you some idea. And then you're like, oh, okay, it doesn't mean that the vendor is fine about not responding to your emails. It's still not a good thing, but at least you might know why it could be. I'm going to jump right in and talk about these situations where they might not actually be ignoring you. What happens sometimes is that brides and grooms, they will inquire with me and they will put a typo in their email address. I will catch this sometimes when I'm responding back to them and I realize that their email address, sometimes it'll be their name, but then their name is spelled differently than what they put in the name field. I'm like, okay, they made a typo. I usually correct for that and that's great. But imagine how many I don't catch that I don't know their typos, because it's really common. It could happen. So if you haven't heard back from a vendor, maybe it's because you accidentally typed the wrong email address or you put a typo in it in their contact form. That's definitely something that could happen. Now, the second reason is that sometimes, at least for my emails, sometimes they go to spam. There's links in there to galleries and all these things that maybe Google is like, I don't know about this, which is so frustrating. But I do hear sometimes from brides, I follow up with them and they're like, your email was in my spam box. So make sure that you guys are checking your spam folder when you've been responding to a bunch of vendors, because you never know, it could slip through the cracks. Another reason could be that it's the weekend. If you email them on Friday afternoon and you haven't heard back by Sunday and you're like, why the heck are they not responding to me? They should be responding to me ASAP. That's not the way it works. A lot of people do take off the weekends, whether they just simply deserve to take off the weekends or they're working weddings. So they might not get back to you till Monday. Some people also take Monday off after a wedding weekend, so it could be until Tuesday. Sometimes their website will say their email hours, but don't be discouraged if you haven't heard from them for a couple of days because it was over a weekend or if it's a holiday. Please don't expect people to be emailing you back on the weekends or holidays. I might do it if I've got the time, but a lot of people don't. They want to make sure that their time off is truly their time off, and that is 100% reasonable. Now, another reason that they might not be responding to your emails is because they have an autoresponder. Now, I have a bad habit of seeing somebody sent through an autoresponder and I just delete it immediately, and then I'm like, why haven't they emailed me back? And then it's in my mind, oh wait, they had the autoresponder, let me see when they're returning. So maybe if you've emailed somebody on August 1st and they sent an autoresponder and it's now August 6th, you're like, what the heck, they haven't responded back. Go back and look at their autoresponder. Maybe they're saying that they're returning on August 8th and they'll get back to you. So make sure that you guys are checking that, because that's a very valid reason. If they have an autoresponder, know that you're probably not gonna get a response until once they've returned. Some vendors I know are in such high demand, they're so popular, they get hundreds of emails a day from vendors, from brides, from companies, from this, from that, especially wedding planners. Some of the really high-end in-demand wedding planners that I work with get so many emails every day, and it's just impossible for them to get back to everything in 24 hours. And you might be saying, well, maybe they should have help. Sometimes they do have additional help, but they just get that many emails that they cannot respond to them super, super quickly. And whether that's a valid excuse or not, I don't know. That's not really my call to make. I don't get hundreds of emails a day, so I can't really say. But just know that some really popular people might have a flooded inbox, and it might take a little bit of extra time, maybe 3-4 days for them to get back to you. Now, you're perfectly within your right to move on to somebody else in that time, but if there's somebody you like, maybe you just wait and hold out for a bit, and we'll talk about when to follow up at the end of this video. Here are some situations where vendors might actually be making a conscious choice to ignore your email. And again, I am not saying that any of these reasons are valid. I still respond to every single inquiry, but there are some vendors who might see an inquiry that they don't particularly care for, and they just don't respond. That's probably not the best business practice, but at least you might have an idea of why, even if it's not a justified reason, but why they might not be responding to you. Some people are just genuinely sucky at email. Some vendors are just really focused on the artistry part of their work and not at all the business part. That is not me whatsoever. I can't function like that. I am probably more of a business person than I am a photography person, but that's just who I am. I'm type A, I'm very organized, I like a clean inbox. Other people I know just live their life in a very whimsical manner. It's very carefree, and they're just on their own time. Another one is if your message that you sent them contains literally no details whatsoever. You left out your venue, you left out your date, you left out your city you're getting married in, you literally said nothing in your message, or you only said please send pricing and nothing else. If you are emailing several different vendors, have at least some sort of copy and paste description of your wedding, like this is where we're getting married, blah, 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 blah. All these details, 200 guests, this place, this time, only one venue, all in the same place, blah, blah, blah. Have some sort of template that you can copy and paste into every inquiry that just lets them know the necessary information they need to know about the event. Some vendors are not going to take the time to track all that down from you because you didn't put it in the first email and they are too busy, or they don't want to work with somebody who clearly does not want to take the time to provide the information. Another thing is if you have no date, no venue, no city, nothing, that can feel like a time waster. Even if you have the best intentions, please do not reach out to vendors until you are in a position where you could book them. People might reach out to me and be like, we're getting married probably somewhere in 2020, somewhere in California. We're not really sure yet, but we just wanted to reach out and like talk to you early. And I can't book them. I cannot book without a venue and a date, or at least one in mind that they're about to be finalizing, because that's just too much up in the air for me. And there's not really a whole lot I can do with that inquiry. Sometimes they're like, oh, we just want to talk now, but we're not going to book for a few months. And I'm like, we'll come back in a few months. Please don't waste my time now. Please don't waste your time now. Please contact when you're ready. So if you have nothing booked, your vendor might be like, they're not 100% serious. Maybe they're not even engaged. I don't know. And they might move on. Another reason is that they don't like your venue. This is kind of a thing where it could be more logistic-wise. Some venues treat vendors really poorly. Some venues are extremely hard to load into, and it's way too chaotic for their team, and that's just not the kind of work they want to be doing. Some venues only give you like 45 minutes to set up, and that's not enough for them to do the caliber of work that they're known for. So maybe that's why they're ignoring your email. Again, that's not necessarily a good reason to ignore your email, but that's a possibility. Another one is that they don't like your style, or simply that what you're asking for or your style does not match the kind of work they do. I've talked about this a lot in the past in my florist videos. I'll link one up here. If you are wanting really tight ball-shaped, traditional, ballroomy floral arrangements, but you're emailing a florist who has very organic, asymmetrical arrangements, that's not a good fit for so many reasons. So that could be why they're ignoring your email. Maybe they're like, it's just, they clearly didn't look at my website to see my work. They're not serious about this, or they're just not going to change their style and they ignore you. Again, it's not really a good reason to ignore somebody, but that could be why. Another one is that you actually did give a budget, which thank you so much for doing that. It is so helpful to know right off the bat what a couple's budget is. We're not going to try to price gouge you. We're just going to make sure that you're at least in the right place. If somebody emails me and they say our budget is $3,000 to $4,000, I'm going to say, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm not in your budget. Here are other people who might be. It is so nice to know that right off the bat before getting in any deeper and wasting everybody's time. But a reason they could be ignoring your email is maybe your budget is really, really very much under what they charge and what their minimum is. So that's why they might be ignoring you. Now, the last reason, and this is a little bit more justified, I still respond to these emails even though I'm like, ugh, is if you're giving off major red flags and you're clearly going to be somebody who's difficult to work with or demanding. This is hard to think to yourself, is what I'm saying going to put people off? It's really hard to be introspective and to look upon the things that you've said. And I try to do this in situations in my life where things didn't work out like I wanted it to. I try to think, was it me? Did I say something here that would be off-putting or make people not want to work with me or this or that? And I will usually have a second person read it, and sometimes they're like, it's a little bit this or that. So that could be what is happening to you. Maybe you've got this really long email, you've got all these demands, we're gonna wanna do this and just like this. Maybe it was an innocent thing, or maybe you are really demanding and difficult to work with. And a person like me, I'm not gonna work with somebody who's difficult and demanding. I want to work with kind, sweet people who trust that I know what I'm doing and they take my advice and suggestions. I love those couples who are like, you're the expert, we're hiring you for a reason, we're gonna listen to you. I love those people, not because I like being in control and being in charge, but because I know that they're going to allow me to do the best possible job for them. So if I see somebody come through with a really red flaggy email, or they just have really difficult things in there, or they're like, oh, here's already my 100 shot list, photo list that you're gonna have to shoot at the wedding, and here's all these things that I need you to do for the wedding. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna want all of this for a discount, and I'm gonna want this money off of this, and I'm gonna want a really good deal from you. Yeah, that's maybe not going to get you a response from a lot of people. I'm still going to email them back, but don't be surprised if you send a really entitled, demanding, controlling email. Please don't be surprised if people find that very alarming and do not want to work with you. And maybe again, your heart's in the right place, but please think about what you're sending and what you're saying. Be true to who you are. Maybe you are a difficult person, and there are going to be vendors out there who are more than happy to work with you. They have difficult clients all the time, but there are some of us vendors who would rather skip out on the money than work with somebody who's not going to make our lives pleasant. And I'm hoping that all of you watching this channel are really pleasant and nice and kind people, so this won't apply to you. But just know that if you're throwing out a bunch of red flags, that might be why they're ignoring you. Here's how to proceed. Hopefully you are not being ignored, but if you are and it's a vendor that you actually are still interested in, one thing I recommend is just to follow up after 2 to 3 business days. So if you email on a Friday, maybe follow up on a Tuesday. Or possibly a Wednesday if you're not in a time crunch. If you emailed them on a Monday and you haven't heard back from them by Thursday, follow up and just say, hey, I wanted to make sure you got my email. I would love to chat with you. Be nice about it, because maybe your email did slip through the cracks, or maybe they just had a really unexpectedly busy couple of days and they weren't able to really get into their email. Maybe they were out on several jobs and by the time they get home, it's like dinner time. Always, always, always give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, if you've followed up and you still haven't heard from them for a couple more business days, again, check if there was an autoresponder, but if not, at this point, I would either move on, or what you can do is just give them a call. Maybe they are one of these people who's really crappy with email and you just need to call them to get their attention. Say, hey, I left you an email. I would really love to hear back, or maybe we can chat now. You never know. Maybe you had a typo in your email address, or maybe your email went to their spam. There's all these different things that could happen. So just make sure that you follow up, and then if you're not interested anymore, you can absolutely move along. And then it's just frustrating. You don't need to go write them a nasty review. Just move along. And hopefully you have other vendors in mind in that same category that have responded to your emails. And if that makes you feel way more comfortable, as it would for me, then move on to one of them. Hope this video is helpful for you guys. I know it does not ever feel good to be ignored. And if you have been ignored by vendors and you're doing the same thing to other vendors, please at least go back and write those other vendors an email saying, we've moved on. Respond to people's emails, because if you don't appreciate being ghosted, they probably don't either. So just be really courteous, and hopefully you can find a vendor who is equally as courteous that you love working with. See you guys next time. Bye!